This is Feel Free, a health elixir designed to be a replacement for alcohol that provides relief from anxiety, improves focus, and makes people more at ease in social situations.
For productivity enhancer, that's a social lubricant.
I was drinking those Feel Frees.
My anxiety has definitely gone down dramatically.
I highly recommend you get some, you try it.
But there's another side to this health elixir, a darker one.
You know, you start off at 3 or 4, and then it's 5, and then it's 10, and then it's, you're off to the races.
What are those called? Feel Free? There's a lawsuit about them now. Do you know what those are?
Threw up twice in a public restroom.
When it came to withdrawing, I weaned, I tapered.
That it leads to a tragic cycle of dependence, addiction, and even death.
It's just really indescribable. I wish I could find the words to tell you how it makes me feel.
It was a hellscape like I didn't have even a place in my imagination that something could be so arduous and torturous.
This is the story about a health tonic made from exotic plants whose peculiar combination of ingredients people who are recovering from its grip say is specifically designed to get them hooked and never let them go. And despite the growing chorus of voices and lawsuits clamoring for justice, it's still available in street corners and convenience stores all around the country. If it weren't for regulations, dealing drugs would be the best business in the world. All you'd need to do to make a killing is hook a person with a quick hit of euphoria and then let them suffer awful withdrawal symptoms when they try to stop. A few weeks ago, I put out a video about a man who fled New Zealand after he was convicted in a massive real estate scheme. And then he landed in Arizona and founded AG1, the most profitable supplement company on the planet. Now, this was just one indication that the supplement industry isn't as clean as it wants us to believe. And after that video came out, a bunch of people slid into my DMs saying that I really needed to look at a company called Botanic Tonics. Not only was the founder sentenced to 9 years in jail for embezzling millions of dollars, but just like with AG1, he founded his health elixir company after he was released from prison. Now people are getting addicted, sick, and at least one reported case dying because of it. While I love getting tips from my viewers, I had this sinking feeling that this story was going to take over my life. Once I started digging into just a few court documents, lab samples, and started hearing from dozens of people from the subreddit devoted to this feel-free addiction, I knew that this rabbit hole was about to turn into a quagmire. And then, out of the blue... Hello?
Hello, Scott. This is JW.
Now, that's not actually his voice, but we had several phone calls and dozens of emails over the last couple weeks. And in this piece, when you hear that voice, it's an AI rendering that's quoted verbatim from my records. But to just give you a taste, things really did go off the rails.
To protect my and my family's life, the federal government, under federal seal, sealed the case, and my identity change, inclusive of a new social security number, passport, and change of name. I was told I was under no legal obligation to disclose this to anyone, and further, if I did, there would be consequences.
This story has taken me more than 100 hours to report, with at least a dozen interviews, as well as background conversations with the U.S. Marshal's Office, that's the organization that runs the Witness Protection Program, and the FBI, and political lobbying organizations with billions, or at least millions of dollars at their disposal. The company's founder even threatened to have me put in jail when he got wind of what I was doing. So now, this isn't only the story of a health tonic gone wrong, but how an entire semi-legal $1.5 billion industry is trying to create a new regulatory paradigm for a psychoactive and addictive Southeast Asian leaf called Kratom, based on the incredibly vague laws that regulate the supplement business. And I also found out how right now you can buy this potentially addictive blue tonic at gas stations and head shops across the country, like I found out. All right, I'm driving off to pick up some Feel Free. I pulled into the Circle K. It looks like it's right there. I can buy it. It's $8 a bottle.
Yeah.
Do you sell a lot of it?
Yeah.
How many bottles do they buy usually when they buy it?
Maybe like 4 or 5 for a single day.
Plant-based, energy-focused, social lift. All right, so he carded me. And we got my bottle.
There we are. You want to see?
Just bought my first bottle of Feels Free, and the first thing that the guy at the counter asked me was, how many bottles did I want? And usually people will buy 4 at a time at $8 a bottle. That's not exactly cheap. Now to go find out more about what this is all about. When Feel Free came onto the scene a few years ago, it advertised itself as a high-end health booster and was distributed in health food centers and wellness shops and even in therapist and nutritionist offices as a way to help smooth over the cravings from people who want to quit alcohol and opioids. The brand sought out sponsorship deals with major sports teams, including affiliations with Florida State University and the University of Texas. Fraternity and sororities handed out bottles at parties on campuses, and the founder, J.W. Ross, had high-profile appearances on major health podcasts like Ben Greenfield and Skinny Confidential, and with Luke Story. Joe Rogan drank it before a show.
This might be Joe Rogan's secret weapon for keeping us cool.
And soon the elixir spread like wildfire. If you believe its marketing materials, Feel Free is a harmless health and mindset enhancer made from all natural ingredients. Its website proudly promotes how it contains kava, a Southeast Asian tree root that has been consumed socially for centuries. And there are almost no kava addicts in the world, especially in Southeast Asia, which was surprising to Feel Free customers who felt almost uncontrollable urges to drink as much of it as they could. They soon discovered that Feel Free also contains high levels of the much more potent tree leaf Kratom, which the FDA compared to an opioid in a 2017 press release and linked it to 36 deaths, again in 2017. It wasn't long until people who were recovering from alcoholism or had gone through bouts of depression started getting addicted, and badly.
It took maybe 2 months or so to get to 8 to 10 a day, and then at where I was, they were about $10 a bottle. And so 8 to 10 a day, let's say it's 10, easy round number, it's $100 a day, 30 days in a month, $3,000 for a month, 12 months in a year, $36,000 a year, went on for about, let's say, a year and a half at that level. That's about $54,000 worth of drinking this wellness tonic.
There was also this post on Facebook, which also appeared on a Reddit forum.
My daughter passed away in August from these. She became addicted to them just by trying them. She tried to stop drinking them and would be in so much pain she would slip back into it. She developed an intestinal blockage and dropped about 40 pounds to where she only weighed 107. Her skin was extremely dry, she was shaky like a 90-year-old, and she started having seizures, which she'd never had before. The last seizure she had was so violent it resulted in cardiac arrest, and we lost her. These drinks are pure evil.
Later, I connected with that poster who further told me that the FDA collected samples of Feel Free bottles at the scene and is conducting its own independent investigation into her death. The podcaster Ben Greenfield is one of the few health influencers to walk back some of his initial claims of support for Feel Free.
You've heard me talking about this stuff that gives me pure euphoria, and I feel like I'm on drugs, but like really good drugs the rest of the day. Burns clean, crushes appetite cravings, crushes any desire for even things like wine or weed or anything like that at night. Workouts better, sex better, recovery better, talks better. So I'm going to show you what it is. It's called Feel Free. Tiny little bottle, phenomenal cosmic power. I've been drinking 2 a day now.
Feel Free paid him an undisclosed amount to be on his show, as well as affiliate deals for products that he sold online. Now, I've known Ben for a few years, and he's active on the subreddit for recovering addicts of Feel Free and seems genuine when talking about his affiliations and the impact that his show had on the community. And I reached out to him over a messaging app that we share, and Greenfield, who intensely monitors his own health, says, well, he went a little overboard with Feel Free.
I was drinking like 6 bottles a day, and then I found out what it was. I'm like, oh, I should not be putting that in my body in excess. And now I still have some. I might have like a bottle a week.
And then he suggested an important research direction.
The founder of the company does have an interesting history. I'll leave it at that. You can do your own digging. The podcasts that I took down because Feel Free asked me to take them down. They said that it was because they might be under some scrutiny for illegal marketing practices or something like that.
Now, of course, I'd already been digging into the founder's history. But before I dig into that, let's pause for a word from our sponsors, by whom I mean you. Putting out videos like this can take dozens, or in this case, even hundreds of hours. And doing this reporting often pits me and my tiny little media company against billion-dollar outfits who have every reason to keep their secrets hidden. And I need your help to keep this show on the road, on the air. The first thing that I'd like to ask of you is to hit that like and subscribe button to help the algorithm do its algorithm thing. And then also send this video to a friend who might not know about the addictive potential of this gas station tonic. But even more importantly, I've come to learn that I am doing my best work right now on Substack, where I can post newsletters that go along with my videos and even give early access to subscribers who can pitch in a few dollars a month. I know that my work is saving lives, and you can be part of that journey. And so that's my pitch. You can find links to all of that right down below in the pinned comment at the top of the comment section. So without further ado, this is J.W. Ross. Whether he's walking around in a jungle full of medicinal plants or calmly expounding on his business acumen online, he appears to be like any other founder of a wellness empire. But a strange thing happens when you start to Google his identity. Before a few years ago, well, he's a ghost. Basically non-existent. That's because his real name, it's not J.W. Ross, it's Jerry Cash. He's the former founder of an oil exploration company in Oklahoma who got caught stealing millions of dollars in a money laundering scheme. In 2009, he was sentenced to 9 years in jail, and Botanic Tonics was his next business venture. I reached out to Botanic Tonics for a comment, and soon Ross was sending me a huge number of unsolicited emails, text messages, and legal correspondence. Now, to sum a lot of it up quickly, he told me that while he was in jail, he learned of an assassination plot against a federal judge involving a gang of neo-Nazis. He traded evidence of the plot for a reduced sentence and immediately entered the Witness Protection Program. He sent me a threatening-looking legal letter that suggested that if I reported on any of his prior crimes and connected his former identity to his present one, he would use his position in the Witness Protection Program to get me thrown in jail. So I am used to sources inventing fantastic stories and threatening me to stay quiet and outright lying to me, but this one, I have to admit, it was new. How do I balance the directives of a witness protection program against a news story in the public interest that exposes a potential dangerous drug on the market? Clearly, the founder's criminal past is relevant to assessing the company's claims that it's totally safe and non-addictive. If you knew that this guy, walking through a Kava forest, also shared a cell with a neo-Nazi and had stolen millions of dollars right before that, that could color your judgment about his health claims. So I called up the FBI and the U.S. Marshal Service to try to understand if J.W. Ross was being straight with me. The officer I connected to only wanted to be identified as a spokesman from the U.S. Marshal Service, so I can't play you the recording. But to summarize, he said that anyone in the Witness Protection Program who goes public like Cash has in his numerous interviews and appearances is no longer under the protection of the service. And that I was free to report on his identity and even his criminal background. I should have probably expected that J.W. Ross would have tried everything he could to get me not to report on this piece. Because to some degree, the company seems to be in a little bit of trouble. Take these reviews that appeared on Indeed.com by former employees. The product can cause major health problems and that they try to hide that it is a drug. They also said that they start every single day never knowing whether they're going to be shut down by the feds or not. Part of that sense likely comes from a class action lawsuit that was recently filed that alleges that Botanic Tonics knowingly distributed a dangerous addictive product to the public. The suit says that initially Feel Free called itself a Kava preparation, but willingly omitted any mention of the more powerful psychoactive leaf in its ingredients, Kratom. Elixir users said that something peculiar about the blend of ingredients synergized into a hyper-addictive concoction, one that was tailor-designed to get former substance abusers hooked. The complaint said that Feel Free advertised itself as a safe alternative to alcohol, posting more than 1,000 ads that specifically targeted to recovering addicts with slogans like, "Sober curious? Why not mix it up with a euphoric alternative to alcohol tonight?" And "All the buzz without the booze." And "Not your average alcohol-free elixir. Feel Free was made to be functional and facilitate states of bliss, flow, vitality, and focus. Kava and the ancient plants will give you the boost you need minus the anxiety." In other words, they allege that Botanic Tonics willingly deceived customers into taking on a potentially deadly addiction.
It's a tiny little drink, like a tonic, and it has kava and also kratom in it.
Oh, I saw him with that last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know what's going on with those things, what that does, but you drink a half of one of those, you're not supposed to drink a full one. You're supposed to drink a half of one. Why don't they make it in smaller dosage so it's a single serving? Because it's only that big.
Yeah, because it's hard to judge.
Also, I can't read without my glasses on, like that little tiny writing. I'm not going to read. This is 2 servings.
Both
if
of
it,
them.
is it 1 can, then it's 1 serving.
At this point in the story, I need to pause for a second and just say that I am hardly someone who abstains from occasional drug exploration. I regularly take cannabis when I work out. I've traveled down to Peru to take ayahuasca with shamans. And when I was 20, I drank liquid opium out of the hand of an 80-year-old woman in a village in India. I'm generally a proponent of drug legalization and think that we should all be free to make our own decisions on what we put into our bodies based on the best information possible, which is why I decided that I needed to give Feel Free a try in order to understand it better. Okay, so I'm a little nervous, if I'm going to be totally honest. I got the bottle. I've put a lot of bad things in my body over the years, and I'm not a particularly addictive person. Consult healthcare professional before taking any dietary supplement. This is actually like super confusing. Even if you like, I know they've updated the directions. They're not super straightforward. Oh God, it's nasty. Really bad citrusy chocolate. Someone told me that you feel things immediately, and I'm feeling something. The second it got in, mouth's like slightly numb. Ugh, it really is disgusting. So if the next video I come out looking like Gollum, totally addicted, drooling out of my face, you know this was a really bad idea. All right. It's been about 5 or 10 minutes since I took it, and I do understand why they think it would help you focus. Is this somewhat like Ritalin, possibly? I do feel a little nauseous in my stomach. I don't think I'm going to become Gollum. I don't think I'm going to become Gollum. I got into this groove about 10 minutes after taking the shot, and I got a lot of work done. And then now I feel like a little bit unfocused. I feel a little bit warm. And there's this voice in the side of my brain saying, you should take some more. And you should get right back to where you just were. And I find that interesting because, one, I don't usually talk with hand puppets. I don't usually have those sorts of addictive thoughts. And now I feel sort of just groggy and, I'm just sort of low. I would guess if you intensified this by orders of magnitude, doing this over and over again over the course of years or months with many, many more bottles, that down that I'm feeling now could be way, way worse. It's been 5 hours since I took Feel Free, and it feels like the day after you smoke a lot of pot. Like it feels like last night I smoked a lot of pot, and today I woke up and I feel really just like groggy and just not super motivated to do stuff. And I get it. I get what the addiction cycle is like. That's what Feel Free is about. You feel free for a few minutes and then you want to go back on it. So yeah, I get why this is so addictive. I can only tell you what I felt while taking it. For a more scientific understanding, I had to reach out to an expert.
I'm Cornel Stanchu, and I am a clinical addiction psychiatrist.
Stanchu says that Feel Free is different from other Kratom products on the market because of the peculiar relationship between Kava and Kratom.
The combination of these two botanicals certainly is concerning. Both Kratom and Kava can inhibit metabolism of certain pharmacological agents, but also of each other, which increases their potency.
There's also the issue of Kratom products that are available on the market right now.
Capsules or liquid extracts, which extract just the highly potent compound from the kratom plant and really concentrate it to where one could ingest a capsule that may be the equivalent of, say, 3 trees worth of leaf. It's very dangerous for the consumer.
And again, Feel Free is far from the only company selling Kratom in America. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of different companies that sell various iterations of powders and elixirs that make claims as varied as the leaf being a great way to taper off your harder drugs, all the way to their own concoctions being legal morphine, which is quite a spread. While I would love to do a deep dive into that Kratom industry as a whole, just reporting on Feel Free has pretty much taken over my life. So if you are looking for that sort of deep dive, I would like to direct you towards this amazing investigative feature series by the Tampa Bay Times last year, where a team of reporters uncovered the full stretch of the Kratom empire from Southeast Asia through the ports in Oakland all the way to Florida. They found numerous distribution and processing centers in Texas, Colorado, and Georgia, and cataloged more than 500 deaths in Florida alone. While they don't have national statistics, back-of-the-envelope calculations suggest that the total body count in the last decade is likely in the multiple thousands. Now, you might ask why Kratom is so widely available in America. Why haven't regulators stepped in? Well, the fact is that they tried. Back in 2016, the FDA petitioned the DEA to list Kratom as a Schedule I drug, so dangerous that it wouldn't even be available for medical study. But by that time, Kratom already had a sizable market and enough money to hire lobbyists, like Mac Haddo from the American Kratom Association.
My involvement came when the president of the AKA at the time called me and asked me if I would join their lobbying team because I have had extensive experience in dietary supplements. I previously worked with Orrin Hatch, who was the champion of dietary supplements. And I worked with him on the enactment of the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act in 1994.
That's right. This is the same lobbyist that made it almost impossible for the FDA to regulate the supplement industry beyond labeling their products accurately and not making specific health claims.
So there was a 1994 act that prohibited the FDA from regulating supplements before they went to market or testing them for safety or efficacy before going to market. So basically, it's up to the manufacturers to make sure their products are safe and effective, and we're just going to trust them, and then they're going to go on the market.
Which, of course, ushered in a whole world of billion-dollar supplement grifters. For more about that, see my video on AG1 or even the work that I've done on Andrew Huberman over the last few months. Here's Haddo again.
No vendor in the Kratom space is permitted to use a therapeutic claim on a product in order to convince a consumer to purchase their product. That's barred by law. That doesn't mean that a consumer cannot consume a product for a health benefit that they perceive or actually experience.
So Kratom exists in this regulatory gray area. About 5 states have banned it, but it's still widely available across most of the nation. The lobbying efforts of the American Kratom Association promise to make this a long and drawn-out battle. The various subreddits and online forums devoted to Feel Free say that there is something special about Botanic Tonic's proprietary formula that seems to be almost scientifically designed to foster addiction. And to back that up, the company certainly hired some of the best Kratom scientists from the only program that studies it in the country to help consult on their product, and I presume develop it.
I'm Dr. Erin C. Berthold. I got my PhD from the University of Florida in pharmaceutical sciences. My research group focused on studying complex natural products like those produced here at Botanic Tonics.
It could be that simply mixing those two components is enough to synergize into a particularly addictive brew. But there are other theories out there too. In his message to me, Ben Greenfield speculated that the secret to their success was that they fermented the kratom.
I sent the bottle from my own stash off to the mass spec guy on Instagram, who did a full mass spectrometry analysis of it. And basically, it contains exactly what it says it has in it. Like, it's not laced with fentanyl or opioids, all this stuff that people are claiming. It's just kava, but the thing is, they ferment the kratom, right? So it hits you a lot harder. And people who might do just fine with normal kratom are probably going to get addicted to it faster. It might hit them harder.
There's at least some evidence that this is the case, including a shipping record posted online that they imported a beer fermenter from a company in China. It's also clear that lots of kratom that comes into the country is already pre-fermented. It's hard to know for sure though, because J.W. Ross, aka Jerry Cash, is adamant that their product includes no intentional fermentation whatsoever.
We damn sure do not purposely ferment product in that we would quickly go out of business having to destroy it. On a personal note, myself and my family drink it regularly, and I would be crazy to not be as diligent as possible on quality control.
He sent me several documents showing their testing policies and noted that since he is a recovering alcoholic, he has a core principle never to include alcohol in his products, which is sometimes a byproduct of fermentation. While I dug pretty deeply into the fermentation question, ultimately all I can say is that I'm not sure. But does the chemical process really matter when we have evidence from so many accounts of people who are totally hooked? I come back to this question a lot. How do we balance the freedom we all want to have to make decisions for ourselves against the public interest to stop people from harming themselves? Ultimately, I don't think that Feel Free should be illegal. Banning drugs often just creates an illegal market, but I do think that there needs to be more information out there about what Kratom and Feel Free actually are. JW and I traded close to 100 messages over the course of me reporting the story, but he was always hesitant about coming directly on camera. He asked me if he was going to end up on my playlist, The Liars, Cheats, and Charlatans of the Griftoverse. And when he realized that he probably would, he sent me a note that he forwarded from one of his resellers, which you can read in full if you'd like to pause this, but in short, claims that his business partner believes that Feel Free is helping far more people than it hurts. And then he signed off with this promise.
If I ever feel we are not serving the greater good, then we will stop selling Feel Free. Until then, we will work to do a better job informing and educating consumers. We will also continue to do more clinical work to get a deeper understanding.
So I'll leave it to you. Do you think Feel Free is serving the greater good? Maybe you can send him a note through his website or in the comment section down below this video for how you would have him address this problem. Most people that I spoke with who had been hooked on Feel Free had absolutely no idea what they were getting into when they cracked their first bottle. They thought it was a natural alternative to alcohol and that there was no way something so easily available over the counter could be so dangerous. And many of them spent tens of thousands of dollars feeding that addiction. That money went right into J.W. Ross's pocket. It's not like he has any actual incentive to keep people safe when the regulators are hamstrung by lobbying efforts from enforcing public safety principles. He's taking all of that money right to the bank. The main problem, as far as I'm concerned, is awareness of the dangers of these relatively new substances and what they actually do and the harm they could potentially hold. Everyone knows what happens when you drink too much alcohol or take too much caffeine or smoke too much weed or get really, really high on cocaine. But not everyone knows what happens when you take a seemingly random medicinal leaf or rack up a 10-bottle habit of Feel Free over the course of a few months. We need that story to get out into the world. So if you've made it this far into the video, what I want to ask you is to help out in this effort. I want you to post this video to your social media feeds and even more efficiently and effectively send it to a friend directly and warn them about what might be lurking for them at their corner shop. They may already be drinking Feel Free. Let them at least know what could happen. And if you're someone struggling with addiction to Feel Free, There aren't a lot of resources specifically devoted to the topic just yet, but I highly recommend that you check out the subreddit. I've linked to it down below. You could also check out the Kratom Addiction podcast, where you can hear stories about other people who have struggled just like you. The one piece of advice that every recovering addict told me said that their road to salvation started when they told just one person about the struggle that they were having. There's a lot of shame in admitting that you have an addiction, but taking that first step will make all of the difference. And remember, there are thousands of people just like you struggling with the same things. Thanks so much for listening to this incredibly long video about Feel Free. Remember that I release early access to my videos and occasionally post long letters to my fans on Substack, and I would love to see you over there too. Thank you so much to all of my supporters on Patreon and on Substack who make this work possible. If you want early access and to get your name on the honor roll, please check out those links down below. And, it just means the world to me that you're here. From Pokey Bear LLC in Denver, Colorado, this was Scott Carney Investigates.